Alright, for section 8.2 in the homework help, I'm going to do two problems for you today. One problem is just a simple order of operations dealing with matrices where they're going to ask you to evaluate something that looks like that. Again, it's simple order of operations. It's -1 times that matrix plus 1/6 times these two matrices being added together. And then the other one is asking you to multiply two matrices together. Alright, so looking at this one, it obviously a lot more complicated, but it's a simple idea. You can either distribute the 1/6 to both of these or add these together first. Anytime you have a number sitting out front, you remember they call that a scalar. It's like distributing. You take that -1, you multiply all of those by that -1. So when you're writing out your steps, this will become -4, -11, +2, +1, -9, -3. So when you have a scalar multiple, you just distribute that into those matrices. Plus, I've got 1/6 times, and now I'm going to add those together. Think if you had something like this. You could distribute the 2 to both of them, or you could add those together to get 8 and then multiply by 2. That's kind of what I want to do. I could distribute the 6 to all that stuff, but I'm going to be dealing with a lot of fractions, so I'll worry about that later. So, adding those together, remember you add what they call corresponding elements. Imagine if you took this one, set it on top of this one, those two would be sitting on top of one another. So add those together to get 2. This would give you 4. Here it looks like -6, looks like a +3, 6, and 12. And now I'll go ahead and distribute the 1/6. That again is a scalar, so I'm just going to leave this term alone. It's -4, 2, -9, -11, 1, -3, plus, and now if I multiply by 1/6, that gives me 1/3. That gives me 4/6, or 2/3 if I simplify. That gives me -1, 1/2, +1, and +2. And now I'm just adding two matrices together. So again, add corresponding elements. Get a common denominator if you need to. I know that's -12/3. So this is going to give me -11/3 for that first position, first row, first column number. If I add these two together, this is in thirds, so that's -33 plus 2, or -31/3. That one's simple enough. Looks like it's 1. Simple enough again here. That's 2 halves, so 3 halves. And the last two are actually quite simple too. -8 and -1. So in terms of working on a problem where you're doing some sort of order of operations, shouldn't be too big of a problem. Just make sure you follow your order of operations correctly. I don't think you'll have any trouble with anything like that. Sometimes multiplying can be a little bit of an issue, so we'll take a look at that. Make sure that you pay attention to the order. It's A times B. So matrix A, if you list it as 1, 2, 3 rows, 1, 2, 3 columns, this is a 3 by 3. Matrix B is 1, 2, 3 rows, 2 columns. And remember we said that the inside numbers have to match up. So if we were doing B times A, we would have 3 by 2 and then a 3 by 3. So if they asked me to find B times A, because they don't match up, we would say that it does not exist or it's undefined. Well, that's why they're not asking us for B times A. So I know I'm going to get a 3 by 2 matrix, and then my answer matrix is going to be this. It's going to be a 3 by 2 matrix. So what I tend to like doing is I tend to like writing out the matrices next to each other. So it's 11, -12, 4, 14, 10, 12, and basically just copying these down again. There's matrix A times matrix B. And again, try to get them in order, whatever order they're asking you to multiply them. Now these numbers are a little bit bigger, so the numbers being that large, if that's what's throwing you, don't worry about it. And that's going to equal, I know this is going to be a 3 by 2, so there should be 3 rows, 2 columns. So I'm going to kind of draw out a 3 by 2 matrix. You don't have to necessarily put the grid in here to show you, but that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for 6 different numbers. And then how I would like you to show your work is something like this, where you draw basically that out again. This is one way that you can do it. You don't have to necessarily do it this way. I'll show you something else you can do. Alright, and so how do I find this number? Well, this is the first row, first column. Remember, you always look at rows on the first matrix and columns on the second matrix. So it's the first row, first column, and you start at the far left and at the very top and you multiply those numbers together. So I would say it's 11 times 12, then shift 1 to the right, 1 down, negative 12 times 5, negative 5. Shift again, 4 times 15. And you have the same number of numbers. That's because these inside numbers matched. If they didn't, that wouldn't happen and you couldn't do it. And so then you just multiply all these together and then add them up. So this would be 132. This would give me 60. This would give me 60. And adding all those together gives me 252. And that number goes in that one position. And so obviously if I'm looking at this on a quiz or a test or in your homework and I see that that number's off and you have your homework organized like this, it makes it very easy for me to figure out where that number's coming from. I know it should be here. Alright, so I've got to do this for all 6. I'm going to do it for this one specifically, no reason, just to do it. Think about where that is. That's in the second row, second column. So I would need to use the second row, second column numbers and do the same thing. Start at the far left and at the very top. It's 14 times 10. Shift, it would be 10 times 12. Shift, it would be 12 times 16. And then you'll figure out all 3 of those separately, add them together to find out that it's 452. So hopefully you're getting the process down in terms of how do I know which row and which column to look at. For example, if you want this one, which I could do on the test if I asked you to multiply instead of doing the entire thing, which I don't think that this would happen. I would probably ask for the whole thing, but I could ask you what is that one particular number to save you time. Think about where it is. It's in the third row, first column, so I need the third row numbers and I need the first column numbers. So it'd be 6 times 12 or 72, and some people will just do that. I would prefer this, but if you just write 72, I can probably figure out where that's coming from. Shift, that would give me 10. Shift again, that would give me 135, I believe that is. And then I'll add all those together to get 217. And then just to tell you what these other numbers are, it's 298, 30, and 180. And you can double check doing that on your own to see if you can get that to work out. Alright, so there's my answer. Now, show you how to do it with the calculator again in case you forgot how to do it in class. You have to go to, see the little x to the negative 1 button right here? Just above it, it says matrix, so you're going to hit second, and then x to the negative 1 or matrix. And then you're going to move over to the right so that edit is highlighted. And then you're going to pick whichever one you want to. I'm going to pick letter A. I'm going to enter in matrix A first. It doesn't matter which one I enter in first, but I'm going to enter in matrix A. The dimensions are 3 by 3, so I'm just going to hit enter, enter, and then type in these numbers. So it's 11, negative 12, 4. After you hit each number, you have to hit enter. 14, enter, 10, 12. It goes across by the rows. 6, negative 2, and 9. And once you've got that matrix entered, you can go ahead and hit second mode, or that's quit. That'll bring you back to the home screen. Going to go right back into that same category. So second, x to the negative first, go over to edit. Make sure that you don't pick A again. You need to keep that stored. I'm going to go down to B, hit enter. This one is a 3 by 2, so 3 enter, 2 enter, and then 12 enter, 10 enter, negative 5, 12, 15, 16. And once I get that all entered, hit second mode or quit again. And now to actually multiply them together, now that they're stored in your calculator, you're going to go to second, x to the negative first, or the matrix category. This time under names, I'm going to pick matrix A, because that's this one. It's the 3 by 3. I'm going to hit times, matrix B, so go right back into the matrix category, pick number 2, and then simply hit enter, and it'll calculate it out for you. So if this was on a calculator part of the test, you could simply just plug all that in. There would be no work to show for it. Alright, that is homework help for section 8.2.